Hi, and welcome to the Cyber Attack series. I'm Howell Morgan, Systems Engineering Manager at Sophos. One question I get a lot from businesses is, I know I need my endpoint security to go beyond just protection and provide detection and response. Should I be looking at EDR or MDR? EDR is managed detection and response, and EDR is endpoint detection and response. Let me explain the advice I give. Sophos has been a leader in cybersecurity for 35 years, founded in Oxford in the UK in 1985. Since then, we've grown to secure organizations' endpoints, networks, and cloud in every part of the world and across all industries. At the heart of our approach is making security intuitive to manage using synchronized security. Now, this provides a single central manager to simplify management of all our solutions and automates communication across all of those solutions, giving you a security ecosystem. So to answer that question, let's quickly take a step back and consider what is it that we're trying to achieve in cybersecurity. If we look at the NIST cybersecurity framework, the three central pillars are protection, detection, and respond. We all understand the need to protect, but why now is there so much focus on detect and respond? And it's because in the face of the persistent threats that all organizations face, plus the need to be able to report breaches, often backed by regulation, relying on just the monitoring and reactive security is just insufficient for today's world. So what will detection and response give me as a business? Detect previously unseen threats, allowing you to become more proactive in hunting for threats, not just waiting for them to impact your business. A lower mean time to detection, which means finding those threats sooner, quicker, so that damage is limited, in many cases actually avoided, and allowing you to meet what are sometimes very tight compliance reporting regulations. And then there's learning how an incident occurred so that your protection can be adapted and modified to make sure that that gap in security, that risk, is not exploited again. So with those values of detection response so strong, we ran a survey and 68% of data breaches still take 1 month or longer to detect. And we were curious, well, why is that? So we ran that survey of 3,000 IT managers asking, where does your organization focus their security? And the results were that of a typical organization, 45% of focus, of resources, are still spent on the protection phase. So almost half is on the protection. Detection is still only 30% and respond is 20%. Now, exactly what that balance is going to be, it does depend organization to organization. But the takeaway from this was the balance is still needs to be moved more to the detection response away from protect alone. And we then drilled in a bit deeper and asked these organizations why. Now, these answers aren't surprising, but they're very interesting. The first one is lack of time. Already, 26% of an IT team's time is spent managing security. They just don't have more time to spend on the detection and the response phases. For 34% of organizations, the biggest challenge they face is the lack of skilled resources needed to investigate a cybersecurity incident. And unfortunately, additional budget isn't coming along to solve those previous problems. 2/3 of the respondents said the budget is just, for people and technology, is just too low to address that. And that's just something that's become much, much more acute during the COVID pandemic, as most organizations are just focusing on staying afloat and protecting their revenue and their cash flow. So as an industry, we've created 2 solutions to help with this challenge of how to rebalance focus on detection and response. The first one is EDR, Endpoint Detection and Response. And this is to enable the detection and response of threats targeting host devices. And by host devices, of course, I mean laptops, servers, desktops, but also mobile devices and cloud workloads. Then there's MDR, Managed Detection and Response. And at Sophos, our product name for this is Managed Threat Response. A 24/7 service providing not just the technology, but also the people and the process needed for detection and response 24/7. But let's first look at endpoint detection and response. So what can an EDR solution do for my business? The first thing to say is it's technology to help your team. It won't do everything for them. It will accelerate what they can do. It will equip your team to achieve much more and much faster in terms of detecting and responding to those endpoint threats and incidents. So it'll help detect and prioritize threats, including unnoticed threats, ones that may hide under the radar within your environment, taking data out. And going back to that previous slide of 68% of threats, of data breaches, remain in the network for over a month. And it automatically prioritizes where to focus, because there won't be a lack of things to focus on, but helping you as an organization decide which problems, which incidents should I tackle first. Explain the route, how the threat came in, giving the context so that the right remediation can be taken so that that can't happen again. Understand the scope and the impact. How far did this spread across my environment? Which servers did it impact? What information was on those servers? And correlating the indicators that have been seen against the latest threat intelligence, using libraries, databases of existing known threats, as well as using artificial intelligence for those newer threats. And finally, assisting your team to isolate, clean up, and restore access so that your business's impact is minimized during this incident. So the challenge for many businesses, even with all the value that EDR can bring, 54% of businesses said they're unable to take full advantage of the EDR solution due to the lack of experienced talent within their organization. So even with the great assistance that EDR can provide, to really get the most out of it, it still needs an experienced cybersecurity professional. That's not saying those organizations didn't get great value from it, but they acknowledge it doesn't give them all the value that they could have got from it. So to use an analogy, I'm a notoriously careful car driver, much to the annoyance of all my friends. If you put me in a Ferrari and I just pootle to the office in my commute at 30 miles an hour, people would be pulling their hair out. I would definitely not be getting the full value out of that Ferrari. I'll still be enjoying it. I'd still be getting me to the office, but it's probably not the best investment for me to do. That's very similar to having an unexperienced security analyst or somebody with very little security expertise with an EDR product. So how can that be addressed? Well, the reality is there is a massive gap in cybersecurity professionals around the world. You'll see this chart from the ISC Squared organization. It's a global issue, but Asia Pacific is particularly acutely hit. 2.14 million gap in cybersecurity professionals by region. So that means people are hard to find, hard to retain, and when you do find them, they normally come with a very high salary as well. Now, this is a challenge that the industry has responded to and has produced managed detection and response. This is done for you as opposed to do it yourself with EDR. At Sophos, our product name for our MDR is MTR, Managed Threat Response. So Gartner stated that to build a 24/7 SOC, a minimum of 8 to 12 people of these expensive expert analysts are needed to cover shifts, weekends, leave, sickness. That's what's needed to be able to provide true detection and response capabilities. This type of investment doesn't scale for many organizations. It's just unfeasible. Now, you might be asking, really? Do I need 24/7? Isn't that overkill? Well, it really is not. It's not a coincidence that most cyber incidents hit late on a Friday night or just at the start of the Christmas or the Chinese New Year holidays. It's because, from an attacker's perspective, it's a much better return on investment. It increases their attackers' chances of not being detected, staying under the radar for a long period, which might mean they get a chance, unfortunately, through ransomware to encrypt all of your estate. Whereas if they did it at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, you might get reports very soon that something was happening and you're able to bring it to an end. They might be extracting data from your organization for many days because they know people are running on a skeleton staff. So how can MDR help an organization? MDR isn't just the technology of EDR, it's the people and the process to go with that technology. It's a virtual extension of an in-house team to hunt and respond to the cyber threats around the clock. So I can speak from a Sophos perspective. It's 24/7 threat hunting. And the experts that we use, we have our team based in the US, and you can tell from that, certainly not because that's where the cheapest resources are. It's because that's where the expertise is for what's needed. These are people with many years' experience. And when you're doing proactive threat hunting, it's about knowing where to look. It's about looking for things that there's no evidence to say there's a threat within my environment. It needs that expertise built over many, many years, not something that can just be learned from a book or a training course and you get a certification for. But also there's the feedback. How can you as an organization improve your security to improve your security posture? And then the final part is how to respond to incidents. We can work with an organization to say, do you want us to neutralize it and own the whole process for you? To just notify you and your team goes and does the response? Or we collaborate, and that's probably the most popular option. We work out and agree the interfaces between the two organizations of what happens in an incident, what should be our responsibility and what should remain your responsibility. But I'm sure you can see from this description, it's very clear how MDR solutions are very different to managed security services, MSS, which is focused on management of your network security products and monitoring them through a SIEM. So to answer the question at the start, which is right for my business, EDR, MDR, I'll answer with another question, unfortunately. It is, how much help do you need as a business to provide these detection and response capabilities every day or every hour of every day of every year? If you already have the people and the processes in place, or you can build that easily and you want to do that part yourself, and all you need is the technology, then an EDR solution, such as the Sophos EDR, but there are many others out there as well, would be the right option for you. If building this team is just not feasible, then MDR is what you need to be looking at, where you get external expert people to complement your team and to work alongside your team. So with that, thank you for your time today. I'm sure you're going to have a very enjoyable and informative Cyber Attack Summit. Sophos will be running a breakout session where we'll drill into our MDR 24/7 service, managed threat response in more detail, explaining how it works, and also how it helped a real organization thwart a ransomware attack before it could do its damage. And that really showed the true value of me moving to proactive security, focusing more on the detection and the response to complement your existing protection controls. Thank you very much.